Sound, music, sustainability. Welcome to Sustain FM. We often talk about do-it-yourself as a sustainability solution. How can we avoid the consumerist temptations to buy new equipment all the time? How can we repurpose gear, rebuild gear, fix gear, make our own gear? But what about if we think about moving from do-it-yourself to make it together? Making music or musical instruments never happens as individuals. We're connected to other people, other genres, other communities, and the materials that go into the instruments that we use. Today we talk with JacqNoise, an amazing sound artist and live performer, but also a super connector and community builder. We talk about sound and music and the power of community, exploring how connections become part of a community, moving from do-it-yourself to make it together. It was a great conversation, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. All right, well, Jackie, thanks so much for taking the time to chat today. I really appreciate that. And thanks for hosting me, too. It's actually nice to do this interview live. I usually do these on Zoom, so it's actually nice to be in person.
Cool. I'm happy you had time and to test my coffee.
To test your coffee.
To be honest, I like bad coffee. So I'm curious what your opinion is about the coffee. I know you're
good.
Make that
a requirement of future interviews. There's always got to be coffee. Okay, cool. So yeah, one of the, I mean, there's a bunch of reasons I wanted to talk to you, but one of them is that I think one of the things I find really interesting about your work, and by work I mean the way you do your work and the way you perform, is this interesting kind of cross between technology and building and improvisation and live performance and community and so on. And one of the things I'm always interested in with artists like yourself, and I ask the same questions of Priscilla Kuipers from This Is Not Rocket Science and Fiona Pennick at Astrid Sauter Club, sort of which comes first, like the tech or the music, because they, like you, are into both. So I was kind of curious, were you interested in kind of technology and building and engineering and then moved into music, or was it more music first and then the tech, or was it kind of hand in hand? How did that kind of come about?
Good question. I think everyone has or something that they're purely passionate about. They had already early influences by somehow from their like past childhood kind of time, and maybe they are aware of it, maybe they're not aware of it, but I'm sure it has crossed multiple times your path before you really said like, okay, this is what I feel that I need to do.
Right.
So the moment I moved to Brno in Czech Republic, I met the Bastel instrument guys.
Okay.
And I heard that they were overworked. They had a workshop within the city center, and everyone was like helping the company out, Bastel Instruments, to produce whatever they are producing. And then, so I met the guys, and they helped me to find a place there. And I was like, well, I have 2-3 months off. Can I do something for you? What can I do? What are you doing with the Bastel company? Like, can I help out? And he said like, well, yeah, sure. Can you solder? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, can I solder? Like, I can solder, yes. And then the next day,
were you already doing music at that time?
No, this was like blanco. Like it was like the third year of my bachelor. Civil engineering, construction management, focusing on trains, on sustainabilities, on redesigning public spaces that it is more a livable space or a city for the future. And so I met then Andre and Václav, and they say like, okay, show up tomorrow 9. I mean 10. They started a bit later, and they said they introduced me to the team. Everyone was really focusing on their own desk, like doing one specific thing, and then they said like, okay, and this is what we are going to do today. And then I had to make this model, Knight Rider is the name, and it had like, back then they had wooden front panels.
I remember that, yeah.
And they had like these knobs. It's like 5 by 8 knobs, like a square. So 5 by 8, whatever, 40 little tiny knobs, push buttons that had to go through that wooden pedal. And the laser cutter was not really that precise. So it was like, it was my task to align those and to put them in place. And that was the first experience with creating Eurorack models. Not for myself, for someone else, that like things that were getting sold. And yeah, I also realized I could not solder. And they teach me every day a little step, and they explain me how and what they're doing. And his brother, Andre's brother, he was, I think, not really strong in communication. And my Czech was very little, or actually not there. So our communication was just by copy, paste, and making jokes by, you know, hiding tools for the other colleagues. They're like, haha, we know what was going on. And so a lot of non-vocal communication. Okay. So it was a fun time, yeah.
Interesting. Okay,
oh, yeah, wait. So then that was like the part of the tech. And I was like, in the end, after a month, I was like, what are we making here, actually?
Right.
Why is everyone so crazy about this?
Yeah.
And of course, I saw some of them performing, and the Dutch crew came along, like Paul Tars and Jan Willem from Ginkgo Synthese, Gijs Gieskes, Thomas from XOR. And then I heard the sounds and the music or soundscapes that they were making, and I was like, oh, I remember my dad is making these sounds with synthesizers, just listening to two oscillators, trying to find their tune. Right. I was like sleeping above this living room, and he kept me awake till 4 a.m. Right. So I remember hearing that sound, but I had no clue where it comes from, or how to start, or what my entry point was, or how I would feel about it.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. So then that got you into the tech side, and then started doing your music with that. And you mentioned that was the first time. So you'd been building things not for yourself, but for other people. Yeah. So I'm curious now, when you've been doing actually both for a while, when you're building things like modules or instruments or something else. I'm curious for yourself as an artist, what drives you for that project? Like, are you trying to build something to create a sound that doesn't exist, so you need to kind of create it because otherwise there's no way to doing it? Or is it more that you just enjoy building stuff? Or is it more that maybe there's some kind of like a bit of a satisfaction maybe that comes from sort of literally knowing the nuts and bolts of your setup because you built it, or maybe a mix of those? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it's a mix and a combination. Like, if you do a workshop with a group, and part of the group is already professional in it, or not professional, but like passionate musicians or passionate hardware nerds, then they are looking for something that is not again an oscillator, or not again a filter or a VCA. And that's the thing that you have to come up or introduce a kit or a design that is historical value, for example, the BBB chip. And I think this Moritz Klein new design to build this model in a very, like I think everyone can start doing that, and it's a high success rate of finishing the kit as well. Right. That is a historical, interesting concept because that design has been implemented in so many other technical features about having this little storage and echoing it. Right. So I think that is one part of it, and the other part is like either the interface should be welcoming or giving a little bit of a curiosity and not lead to a certain predicting answer of what the outcome is. Right. So this new, or not new, the Pico Core, which has been designed already a long time, or it has been released for a long time ago on a very little PCB board that looks like a pocket operator. Right. I think by Zach. Okay. I can send you the link later. Okay. And that is great. It has been sold out. But now Erika since released it in a bigger box with like actual the cherry knobs, keyboard things, and bigger knobs to change the settings for the parameters A and B. And then you see that people like the sound, they understand the concept, they know that Pico Core existed, but they see that the interface is more willing to spend more time with it and look for your sound in your recordings. Yeah. Right, okay. So it's a combination of this, but I think it's super important to understand what is already there and not go in the same direction of designing again an oscillator. Right. Yeah, I mean, that's actually a great segue into the next question, because I think anyone who's involved in the music scene, in any music scene, electronic music, rock guitar,
just because something is already there doesn't mean they don't want to buy another one.
Right.
and we have this term, GAS, of gear acquisition syndrome, and I fall into this all the time of, oh yeah, I really want that. I know I've got like 6 oscillators, but if I just had set one more, then that would like really complete it. So I'm curious how you think about, you mentioned sustainability earlier when you're doing your degree of, do you see kind of a relationship of people building DIY, people building kits, people building their own things, people creating things that are different as maybe not a way to solve that, but kind of a different approach and trying to like shift people away from, you don't necessarily need that new bright shiny thing. You might actually be able to build stuff or fix something that's broken. Or I talked to Phil and Ed a lot about their trash music of like taking broken toys and doing things with that. Like, does that kind of make sense to you, that direction?
Yes. And I think in our term of how we use DIY, do it yourself, we underestimate one big part of it. We say, do it yourself, meaning like I as an individual do it myself. But no one is learning on their own something that they have never done before.
Right.
And I hear many voices saying like, oh yeah, I have a DIY project, but I never finish it. Or I'm stuck at here, but I don't know what to do with it. Or like, I have like 20 more kits in my drawer, but I want to go to the workshop to do this together. So I think this do it yourself, I think it has too much of an individual perspective.
Right.
And I think make it together is the new term that we should also include in this workshop idea.
Right.
It's like, it's not because they cannot do it themselves or they don't have the tools or they don't have something that's, they have everything at home, but they want to meet and talk.
Right.
Mostly talk.
Yeah.
Solder or make or create. Or so there's a big social aspect in this whole DIY community. And it's not this term from the 80s that a couple of nerds were making a great line of synthesizers and distributed by the magazines so that people could make it and copying and were very isolated in it. I think it's a new generation in the synth nerding part.
Yeah, that's really cool. Make it together. I love that. And because you also mentioned community, and I think that's kind of interesting bridge because I wanted to talk to you about your work you do in sort of in music communities. And I was kind of thinking when I was preparing for this, I was thinking about community more in terms of music community. But I think it's really interesting what you just said, because I was thinking about sort of community, and then we'll talk about education. But from what you were just saying, those things are actually, well, you can't see my hands moving, but overlapping of those kind of things together. So maybe we can kind of get into the community part for a little bit, and because you've been involved with different music communities and maker communities for a while, whether it's curating and creating the Noise Festival, being part of the curation organization team of Berlin Modular Society, you've got your own RBL show, you do these workshops, you're an artist, part of the European Union funded Shape Plus platform, and these are all great. But at the same time, I know for myself that it actually takes a lot of time and effort to be part of a community, but especially to build communities and create communities. So I'm curious, for you as an individual, either as a professional or as an artist or as a person, what makes it kind of worthwhile for you to invest that time? Because it's a lot of time to invest in that.
I mean, yeah, it's so much of teamwork. So this, if something is creating a community, like name something, like I cannot even name now a very commercial community, like any running community. It is a teamwork and it's a team effort, and I think it's very healthy if it is not only one person saying I created or I supported a community. It's a whole team, and we met through multiple communities.
Right.
And the Berlin Modular Society is one big part of it. But we all know that Berlin Modular Society has been carried on so many shoulders. Not only the crew who is getting these events together, but also every time the people who are showing up and say like, oh yeah, I'm there because I want to hang out and I want to be, I want to talk and I want to talk and I want to listen to music, and that is fantastic. That is fantastic. And what really drives me is sometimes this feedback that you become of people who say, actually, this is my first performance on a stage. And to answer the questions that they have about the sound check or how the sound is on the bigger sound system, how the kick sounds, and that you can guide them and say like, well, let's experiment and try this out, or what do you think yourself, or like to give them the right cables or anything like this. That's for me. If you sum that up after a couple of years of how many artists has been on lineups, or how many non-bigger cities you have to visit like a hackerspace to do a workshop, and that then they started their own DIY events afterwards, that is, for me, that is fantastic. That's really, I think everyone should realize the work that they're doing or the job that they are doing, that they have at least an impact on some parts of the society.
That's interesting. So it's partly, if I'm hearing you right, so partly what happens at like that particular event or that particular workshop, but then also what that sparks. Like you mentioned, the hacker spaces of people coming to a workshop and then going off and doing their own thing. Or I think even within Berlin now, when Berlin Modular first started, it was the only like live electronic night in Berlin, and now there's like at least 5 or 6 or something like that, which Berlin Modular Society wasn't like 100% responsible for, but there existed many other crews before that, but I think the sequence, the amount of time that we're doing that event, that kind of event, and also to say like, okay, we don't work with bookers, we don't work with any door policy, we are super open, like everyone is equal in that space. That is for me purely fascinating. So so the first contact with that person is super important. And so maybe let's talk a little bit more about that. The kind of doing it together, because it's sort of, there's that old cliche that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that makes a lot of sense. But I was having coffee yesterday with our mutual friend Julia, who is co-creating the Modular Circuit event series focused on supporting Flint artists. And we were talking about kind of the challenges of growing these communities, because right now I think next week they have their second event or third event, I can't remember exactly, but it's still relatively new. So that this kind of process of figuring out, okay, how do we generate revenue enough to pay our artists? How do we have enough time to communicate with all the artists and get the promo material? How do we support split tasks? How do we manage conflicts? All the things that are not unique to a music community, they're unique to, basically anytime there's more than one person, you're going to have to navigate those things. So I'm curious how you've seen that process, or how you've navigated that sort of growth phase of a project, going from an initial idea to building a team and navigating the probably inevitable conflicts that are going to happen between people as those things start to grow.
Yeah, I think that those social aspects of building communities or teams exist in all sectors, and in all jobs, and in all volunteering work.
Right.
And that part of volunteering work is number one if we talk about community work. And that also means there's more emotions involved with it, and there's more different agendas to fill in, and the rewards are also different. So I think that should be good monitored. I don't think there's a specific formula for solving most of the things, but things needs time. And if a certain problem cannot be solved within a week or 2 weeks, or focusing on a deadline that is coming up, an event, or demanding artists that are saying like, we want this and blah, 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 then it cannot be solved that moment. You have to park it. You have to give the team space and see what organically rolls out of it. And I think communication, but also the amount of hours that you're working together with each other, that is crucial. Of keep communicating and verifying, where is everyone, do they feel okay, what is possible in this time, this era of time, like 2025. What can we do in 2025?
Right.
And I think what some of the crews and communities are underestimating is that, or valuing, how you say it? Like under the value, not giving value enough, is that what they can do in return of favor. So sometimes I got asked to play somewhere in, not Berlin, but somewhere else. And they say like, well, this is the fee that we have. I said like, great, I understand, I respect that, and I trust on your interpretation of value, what you can do for your event.
Like in terms of how they're valuing artists.
Yeah. Okay. And the only thing what I can do and give is say like, okay, this is the normal thing. This is my under thing of, you know, being able to survive or to travel that weekend, that days. But I trust on your interpretation of you will do whatever to make it work. And not do whatever, but like within the reasonable things. But then they have, for example, a great studio for recording or mixing, or they have a great graphic designer in the team, or they have good photographers on board of the project. And this is the thing that he can offer. So if crews are reaching out to artists that they say like, well, that will really help our creative direction and curation to move that forwards. Also think about something that you can add to their agenda that they wanted to have anyhow in the next half year. A new press picture, writing a blog for them on their website.
Right.
So these are things that is so much more and so much more forward thinking rather than only saying like, oh, this is the fee, we can pay that or nothing, or take it or not, or the 3 guest lists and nothing else, or I think that's something that we should include.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, thinking about, kind of reward and value of both we are getting out of it as an organizer, as a facilitator, as a curator, and also kind of what the participants are getting out of it. And maybe use that kind of to circle a little bit back to the workshops. Because I think when someone comes to, say, a soldering workshop, I guess like one sort of very narrow way of looking at value is they pay X euros and they come away with 1 module. That's kind of like a very narrow way of looking at value. But from what we were talking about earlier, it's also the value of meeting other people, having community, having connections. And I have to say, like, I find that sometimes when I go to events, I'll spend half the time, honestly, outside talking to people and have a great time, even though like I'm there technically to see live music. I'm actually sometimes even more there for the community and the connections.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So on those workshops, I want to talk a little bit about you've done a lot of stuff with Air Instruments, and now working with Erica. You mentioned them a little while ago, the Pico piece, and you've been doing workshops with both. And I know I want to talk about the book that's coming out, but I also want to talk about, maybe could you talk a little bit about their bullfrog idea? Because I find this a fascinating thing. I'm always curious of, I think one of the values I see in what you do, in the work that you do, is a bit of the demystifying, because it can look sort of scary and crazy, like all these cables, or you mentioned someone performing on stage for the first time. That can be very, very intimidating. So, and Bullfrog, they were designed to kind of make it a little bit easier entry. So you want to talk a little bit about what that project was, and then maybe morph into the new thing that's coming out?
Yeah, I wish I took it from the other room to put it here on the table. Just the idea that the listeners could see it.
Yes.
But the
we can post something on the Sustain FM Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, cool. The Bullfrog is designed to introduce subtractive synthesis in a very organic and easy to understand way, but also in a way that it could be introduced in a setting with multiple students and one kind of teacher or mentor or an instructor. Right. So it's, I think Erica it is known that they have been already very strong focusing on the educational path. Mm-hmm. For example, the direction that they were going with the Pico System 3 is a standalone synth that you can either use standalone or in Eurorack, and they have all the functions in there. So 2 VCOs, a mixer, BBD, some envelope generators. And that was already having the introduction of saying like, well, it's not that complex, just patch it how it is. Here's a patch book, here's patch cards. But the Bullfrog even goes one step further and saying the interface should be there. So if you see the Bullfrog, you have the 4 colors. So you have the VCO, the VCF, so the oscillator, the filter, and the amplification. Then 2 envelope generators. Some other functions, example on hold. And having clear knobs and colors related to the function really helps the student who knows very maybe little or is not that well known with music or with the technical aspect of creating sound, a better introduction or like a clear introduction of how to patch and what each function will add into the whole patch. Plus, on top of that, having a book with a good overview of starting off what is hearing, what is frequency, which frequencies can we hear, and what can we do with the other frequencies that are around us, like LFOs. And, yeah,
that's really cool because it's. I think that's almost kind of comes full circle because it's you have kind of the combination of doing something in a workshop, so you're kind of building that community, and a book if someone is not able to attend that, to kind of do that on their own or maybe sort of find those kind of connections. And that's I think one of the reasons I was interested in talking to you, because it's really nice, or maybe nice is not the right word, interesting, exciting, I don't know, inspiring, I don't know exactly what the right word is, but to see those kind of pieces fitting together, because like you mentioned about like there already being like a lot of like crews in Berlin, and you've seen this all the time, that you can have a DJ collective, you can have a running group, you can have all those kind of things. But to actually also have this idea of education and learning and building that community together, that can be really powerful. And also in terms of bringing people that are not already part of that community, whether that's by different ages, different genders, different identities, different racial backgrounds, because sometimes these events can be pretty monochromatic and pretty monogender. So it's nice to have a different way of broadening that engagement.
Yeah. And besides that, like if you talk to one of the teachers at the universities who are teaching music, either digital or hardware related, they say like, yes, it's so important to have like the visual students more understanding of frequencies or any other specialist or profession, that they understand a bit of the sound because they're working together with it.
Right.
And they all say like, oh yeah, I have a mixer, I could bring this, I could bring this gear, I have this like a standalone freaky or like a ARP or whatever. But they all talk about the same. They say it looks too not inviting to start. And it looks inviting for the ones who know a lot.
Right.
So like, interesting, finally something that is new or a new effect or the weird wording to give it a bit of creativity. And I do like that in workshops. But for introducing modular synthesizers or anything related to the first original designs of subtractive synthesis, then you need to go back to a very clean overview. And ideally, for each of the students or each pair of students, one box or like one synth.
So
and
the teacher,
and the teacher will have like a bigger variant to try or to explain, introduce the same patch.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's some of the workshops that I do around sustainability and sound it's kind of a slightly different approach, but what's common is that very hands-on, like actually touch this, actually put this clip on and hear how your heartbeat can trigger the sound, or it's just I think that's one of the reasons why I love music. It's just such a visceral thing of it generates emotions, it has a touch, it has a feel. You can standing in front of the speaker stack in a club where you can feel the hit of the kick drum, the sub bass that your ears can't hear, but you can see the hairs on your arms starting to stand up and feel that rumble in your chest. That's pretty fascinating thing.
And if you also look at other trends, like saying in the classroom, the attention span is very little. People are like, the other students are talking to each other. They're not respecting like the way of information is given to them. Well, let's start questioning how we are giving the information.
Right.
And if the attention span is so short, let them try first and let them come back with questions the moment they are curious about something.
Right.
So that's what we are doing in the classroom. We just patch, and then they say like, but wait, what actually happens? Why does my bullfrog does not sound the one of my neighbor that has a really great beat?
Right.
And then we say like, okay, well, is the envelope generator triggered? What is the filter doing at the moment? Where is the resonance high? What does it do with the sound? And I think that's super. We also in 2025 we should ask how we say we want to give information to the new generation and deal with the things that they are facing right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that discussion. That was great. But, awesome. Thanks again for taking the time. This is awesome. We'll make sure to put links in the show notes to some of the companies that Jackie mentioned, as well as the new book that's coming out. Jackie also has her own show on RBL, so we'll make a link to that, which is cool. Thanks again. This is really enjoyed that chat.
Thanks again for connecting, and we know each other for so many years. It's cool. It's fantastic to see each other's project and to talk about the concept, but also realizing we like make action of it and
actually do stuff.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, all right. Thank you. We've got a special treat today, and to close the show, we have a recording of a live performance by JacqNoise and our frequent collaborator, Dan Graveyard. Thanks so much to Jackie and Dan for sharing with us. Enjoy the sounds. Hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks for listening to Sustain. Hope to catch you again next time. Be sure to sign up for our email list on our website, sustain.fm. Follow our Instagram, also sustain.fm, to get more info on the radio show, in-person events in different cities, live streams, and more. All right, until next time, see you on the dance floor.